tuning in from. This is The Awesome Journey, and I am your host, Kelle 𝒏𝒆𝒚, along with my co-host in care, Christy Howard. And today, I just kind of want to go back to basics, y'all. When we first had the vision of The Awesome Journey, it came from a place of this journey on this side of the dirt is always awesome, regardless of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the truly shitty that we go through. Sometimes those deepest, darkest places lead us to the most awesome spaces. And our guest today could be the poster children for that. Ben and Jess Owen, who you guys, I'm geeking out like a freaking teenager on the inside, not gonna lie. You guys are just so incredible, and again, could be the poster child for the awesome journey. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on an intro, y'all, because there's so much that it literally would take me half the show. But I will at least go into a little bit of, Ben is a veteran from the Army Infantry and enlisted following 9/11. Ben and Jess are the founders of sister organizations, Flanders Fields and We Fight Monsters. And a sponsor of that is Black Rifle, not coffee. We will share all the links to everything we talk about today. I promise you, you need to go get a cup of coffee, sit back and listen. This will change your life for so many reasons because this couple is addicted to the best thing in the world, and that is helping other people. And it's astonishing the impact that they have had, this one couple, and the difference they make. And they will make you think at the end of this, holy shit, I'm one lazy person, or I need to get involved in my community. And I promise you that you will be inspired in ways that you couldn't imagine because they truly have taken doorways to hell and turned them into doorways of hope. If you don't follow them on social media, do it because I love when you guys are in my feed. I either laugh, cry, or just feel great when I see it. And it's usually tears in a good place from seeing the joy that you bring to children and families all over the place. So God bless y'all. Thank you for being here. And before we turn it over to Ben and Jess, I will turn it over to my co-host in care, Christy Howard.
Well, once again, we get our guests. What can I say? I mean, we find them.
Crush it.
Every time I see Ben and Jess post, and their vulnerability, their honesty, their transparency, and all the shit that they do for us, our country. I mean, really, fighting these, we have monsters in our world. We have monsters in our country. And I won't go political, but for the fact that it's us that have to fight the monsters. And these two are people that I strive to be.
Yes.
And even at almost 62, I can still be, and I'm excited because I keep on learning from them and showing they're showing me that, people who know me, I dance with my skeletons, and this is what they do because our skeletons are our stories, and our stories help us become better people. And when we become better people, we can help other people. And this is what they're doing. So enough said from me, Babbling. Jess and Ben, I'm blessed that you guys are here. Yes. You're my birthday present.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I hope we don't let you down.
It is. It's a good thing. It's what I asked for.
I'm glad we finally got on here. You guys have been, we've been kicking the can down the road, and that's on us. We've just had so much chaos going on, but I think y'all invited us on. It was like a year ago.
Yeah, but chaos is always good.
It is, and a whole lot has changed in the last year too. I think we've really found our calling, our purpose. And look, you were trying to get us on a year ago because we had calling and purpose. That's a constantly morphing thing, I think.
Amen.
But back to everything you just said, Christy. There is nothing altruistic or selfless about what we're doing. I'm gonna be totally blunt. What y'all see us doing is what it takes to keep us sober. I mean, there's no way around that. If you're familiar with 12-step recovery, what we do on a daily basis is us living our 12th step out. And that is the cost that it takes for us to stay sober. So every day I go to bed without drinking or doing dope is a miracle. When they say one day at a time, I mean, it really is. And we're fortunate enough to have stacked up her almost 5 years. I'm around 4.5 years, of 1 day at a time. So where do you guys want to start? Because
I would love to hear how you met.
Mm-hmm.
And yes. I mean, we have to, and then how, I know after 9/11 you went overseas, but however,
I enlisted. I never deployed.
You enlisted. Okay. When you got enlisted, but however, when you all got together and the drugs and drinking took over.
Okay. So I think the question of where and how we met is going to answer the next question. We met in Narcotics Anonymous. Yeah. So
which is not a good idea to do.
Yeah. Anybody watching?
Sometimes it can work out.
Usually rule 1.
I see a couple of people I want to name by name that are watching. Don't go meet people in NA. It's not usually where you're going to find the winners. Yeah. It worked out okay for us in the end, but there were some rough years in there. Let's rewind right before we met. It was 2014. I had a raging prescribed opiate addiction that had morphed into a heroin addiction. It was blowing through like $800 a day. Lost my family, my business, my vehicles, my home. And in July 28th of 2014, I lost my freedom. Got arrested with a lot of dope. I was on my way home from the firing range. I had a lot of guns. They charged me like I was Pablo Escobar or El Chapo, which is ridiculous. I mean, it was personal use, and I legally owned all the guns. But once you have dope and guns in the same vehicle, they don't really care about that. So anyway, got arrested, went to jail. 6 months later, I had gotten into the Shelby County Drug Court program. We've probably got some folks on that exact same program watching right now. I know we do. It saves lives. I was not ready to do what they told me to do, though. So in November of 2014, my ex-wife, the mother of 5 of my kids, filed for divorce, hit me with a restraining order, and I went and did what addicts do. I got high over it. So they put me in jail again. December 17th, they let me out of jail, and my drug court counselor comes up to me and is like, do you want to stop living like this? And I was like, well, fuck yeah, I do. And part of me was just telling him whatever he wanted to hear, so he'd let me out of jail because he's talking to me in the courtroom like I'm still in custody. Part of me was serious, though. I really did want to stop living that way bad. And I had for a long time. I just didn't know how. Well, he told me there's a solution, and he took me to Narcotics Anonymous. And that was the first time I ever saw her. And a couple of weeks go by, he invites me to his girlfriend, who's now his wife's, I think it was her 4th sober birthday.
Something like that.
Something like that. And I ended up sitting across the table from this chick right here. I remember my wife had just filed for divorce, wife of 10 years. I've known her since I was 12 years old. I mean, I was not looking for a relationship. I was still trying to fix that one. But Jess and I started talking. Things escalated in not a great way in my attempt to save my marriage. And so by April of 2015, Jess and I started hanging out, and we're pretty much immediately inseparable. She was in NA because in August of 2014, she decided to get sober too. And I'll let you take it from there. So how do we end up back out there?
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
That's how I get to you. I'll jump in.
Well, I've always been very hanging out with the druggies, and I never really, a good job for me was working at fucking Cracker Barrel or something, right? He actually, when I met him, he had his own vehicle. He had his own house. He had all of this shit. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's he's really got his shit together. So, and then, come to find out, he actually does have businesses and knows how to keep them going and shit like that, knows how to run them. So, so we actually start the businesses back up. When we get together, we start them back up, we stack cash, we get a bigger house, and we're we bring all the kids over because we're good now, right? We're clean, we're making money. Well, I don't know if y'all know what slide fire is. It's the bump stock that goes on the AR. It's what's used, for the casino.
Mm-hmm. In Vegas, the Vegas shooting happened. Yeah. We were at that point in time, we were one of probably the number 2 distributor of slide fire stocks in the country. Black Rifle. It was an e-commerce gun brand back then. Now we just do data.
It's the Black Rifle, not
Black Rifle. Yeah. So, I had to add not coffee on LinkedIn.
Because
every time Black Rifle does something to piss somebody off, I get their hate mail, and I'm like,
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's worked out okay.
Yeah.
So we had Black Rifle as a gun e-commerce brand back, and then when the Vegas shooting happened, we were doing such a tremendous volume in sales that the credit card industry pretty much shut us down overnight and took all of our money. Jess had
Now, my question to you
yes.
is, how were you able to be a distributor when you had gone to prison and drugged?
That's a great question. Let's clarify that right now. So I've never been to prison. I've done quite a bit of jail time.
You went to jail. Okay.
I've probably been arrested 18 times. Most of those were for pissing off the drug court judge. I earned it. But we do have a two-tier justice system. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
I was a man of means at the time. I hired a very good attorney. At the end of the day, I had not committed a felony. I was in possession of my own narcotics, and eventually the case was pled down to that. So I'm not a felon.
That makes sense.
But even if I was, those gun parts are just accessories, so that wouldn't have applied anyway.
Okay. Interesting.
I always do something new.
able to get out of the felonies and all that. So I'm legally allowed to own guns and all the good stuff like that. But so we're in 2016 when the Vegas shooting happened. That's when sales started going nuts. Jess was back on pain pills at this point in time. She was managing it very well. She had some resentments towards me over some
A lot of things.
bad decisions I had made. And so I felt like I had to just put up with it. And so I was. Well, and she was burning through probably what, $5-6 grand a month on pills.
It was a lot.
So I'm asking, why were you taking the pain pills now? I mean,
So I had my, this was not,
It was 16.
yeah, because, we had our little boy in May of 2016. So, and I had to have C-section. That's what I have with all my kids. So I was on pain pills from my C-section. Well, I just kept taking them. And when I ran out, I'd go buy some. So I just kept taking them. And I was so angry. There was a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that had happened in the middle of that.
We got a book coming out
Yes.
that talks about all this.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
So she was, she stayed on the pain pills. Well, the Vegas shooting happened, and we're like, fuck, we're about to get hammered. The opposite happened. Sales went insane. So we started making a ton of money. I no longer felt the need to try to get her off of the pills for financial reasons. She was able to maintain the addiction. It was functioning normally. In fact, she was kind of damn superwoman. I mean, she was cranking out, 200 plus shipments a day.
Oh my God.
This goes on until mid 2017. I catch resentment because she's getting high and I'm still sober, and I started drinking again. And alcohol has always been my biggest problem. Now, I've used other substances to burn my life to the ground and lose my freedom, but every bad decision I have ever made in my entire life, for the most part, began with alcohol. So 2017, I start drinking again. I try to quit on my own. I have a heart attack and DTs at 34 years old, I guess, because I was trying to quit cold turkey.
Yeah.
We get into 2018, Trump announces he's going to ban the bump stock, and the credit card industry seizes our payouts. I had been drunk. She had been high. So we just, I guess, forgot to think about the fact that we're completely over leveraged on a single product and ran that risk of being zeroed overnight. And that's exactly what happened. When that happened, we no longer had the money to sustain her pill addiction. And we did what addicts tend to do. And it's always cheaper in the beginning to use heroin. For people that don't know this, if you're on opiate pain medication and you're physically addicted to them, when you run out and you get sick, you want to die. You're incapable of moving. I mean, it's a horrendous experience. So trying to prevent that, we got just heroin. It was a matter of days before I was IVing heroin again myself. And from there, the wheels came off that bus with alarming speed. We got back up to probably a combined $1,200 to $1,500 a day habit, burned through everything we had left. My ex-wife, who we have a fantastic relationship with, we talk to her literally every day. She got our 5 kids back with her. We still had James and my adopted daughter, her daughter Madison, with us. So they saw the brunt of a lot of this. January 5th of 2019, the house of cards came tumbling down. I was on my way back from the dope house. slung a rod through the block of my Tahoe, which we had not done even basic repairs on because all of our money was going to dope. And as I'm standing on the side of the road in front of Grace St. Luke's in Midtown Memphis, my phone rings and it's her telling me there are 3 linebackers at our house throwing our shit into the yard. We're being evicted. So in one day we lost our vehicle, and it's the middle of winter. I mean, it's cold as hell. We lost our vehicle. We lost our house. All of our shit got thrown out in the freezing rain. Jess's dad came and got the 2 kids that we had with us, and Jess and I pretty much ended up living in the vehicle. We were able to hustle up another truck a couple months later, or living on the dope track in trap houses. So the dope tracks that I had frequented back in 2013, 2014, I've now got my wife out at. And that's how we ended up in hell together. The same hell that I had escaped back in 2014.
Damn. And I just want to reiterate for everyone, because you all made that post recently about showing the day that all your shit was thrown in the driveway.
Yeah.
It is much more dramatic when you see the image and the commentary that you included with that, Ben, because the kids' toys were like underneath the couches. I'm like, it was piled up to the 2nd story in their driveway of all their stuff, and it was raining, or it was at least
sleeting. It was sleeting.
Yeah.
And we had, I mean, there was, diapers, every family heirloom I've ever had, my DD-214. I mean, everything got lost. It's not like a poor, pitiful me story. That's what happens when you have rent to pay and you choose to spend your rent money on heroin.
Yeah.
That's where it gets you. Just to highlight how much we had burned bridges, the only people that would come help us get our shit out of that freezing rain were other addicts and crackheads from South Memphis, which maybe that illustrates why we chose South Memphis to go back to.
Yeah. After getting into that, space together, because, here you got each other doing the same thing. How did you turn that around?
Well, it was ugly for most of early 2019. We were at each other's throats. I had another heart attack. I was missing for part of it. She stabbed me at one point. It was pretty bad. I got fed up before she did, and I went and checked myself into detox. A 1-9 Marine from Vietnam, The Walking Dead, actually drove me to detox, and then left with her, and they went and smoked a bunch of crack while I was at detox together. That same 1-9 Marine, we went back and found him. That was actually what took us back to South Memphis. I lived with him in some of the houses that you see us working on. I lived in one of those houses with him 10 years ago, and so we went back to find him. And sorry, ADHD is a motherfucker. Let me finish 2019.
No,
they got me into detox. I got out. She wasn't clean. That never works. If you're in a relationship and you're both using or drinking, you have to both get clean or you have to cut ties. It's not going to work any other way. So I went right back to what I was doing. February of, I guess that was 2018 when I started trying to get clean. It was before we lost the house, wasn't it? Yeah, I went to Delta for detox twice, 2017 and 18. I had been tired of it, because I knew where it led. I had been homeless on the streets of South Memphis, in 2013 and 14. I did not want to end up back out there. She had not quite had that level of rock bottom experience. Not to say hers wasn't bad prior, because it was horrid, but she hadn't had the South Memphis side of it yet.
So when you went to rehab, and I know many people that have gone through rehab, they just work the system, but when you went there, did you go there saying, I want to get clean, but then when you got out, it's like, it's the people around, or did you just work the system to?
That's a great question. There's a big difference between rehab and detox. I was not going back to rehab. Detox just to get, because alcohol withdrawal can kill you.
Explain to me what rehab and detox,
So detox is where they medically detox you from whatever you've been on. So with alcohol, if they don't medically detox you, you can die. I mean, I mentioned I've had 2 heart attacks. I've also had 11 seizures and DTs. So I would go to get medically detoxed thinking I can hold it together on the other side. Rehab is generally a 28-day program where they introduce you to 12-step recovery. They do a lot of drip therapy. It's a great, great thing. And I don't know too many people who have ever been able to get clean without going at least once. For myself personally, I've been to 14 different facilities. I was wasting everybody's time going back through rehab. There was no point. And I maintain that to this day. I did not need to go back to rehab. I already knew everything they could teach me. I just wasn't willing to put it into practice yet.
Yeah.
So 2019, we ended up homeless together in South Memphis. And in February, a really, really dear friend of ours had a crack-induced stroke and died in one of the houses that we now own. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm done. And I went to detox, and I called Jess, I called my parents, and I called her dad. Jess's mom died in 2004 from a drug overdose, so I couldn't call her, but that highlights this is a family disease, right? I called everybody and I told them, I was like, this is it. I am done. If Jess does not show up to detox, we're just going to have to figure custody of James out later, because I'm done with this relationship. 12 hours later, they're wheeling Jess into detox in a wheelchair. And we did both complete. We got out, and then we both relapsed again.
We just keep going through the cycle.
It got even worse that time.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that after just when you got clean and you were already clean, was it the environment? Was it going back to South Memphis of where you were, and it was just comfortable just to get over into that place?
Part of it is the environment. I mean, really, if you want to quit, you quit, but it's not that easy. And then
it's not that easy.
Yeah. And we were also, we were homeless. And also I would like to mention, this was literally the first year of our marriage. We got married in 2018. We spent our first anniversary on a mattress on the floor of the living room, literally 5 feet away from where my mom overdosed. Like, that's where we spent. I mean, like, it was just horrible. It was a horrible environment. Like, we were just like, we were fucked. We were just like, we've been, this is it. It's over. And so it was just a horrible feeling. It was a horrible environment. But we kept getting clean and then relapse and clean, then relapse. And then I think we actually did get clean for a while. After we had went, I think it was like March, April, we got clean for a little bit. And then my firstborn, Madison, which is his adopted daughter now, her father was murdered, and we had kind of gotten close with him again. Ben was getting real close with him, and he would call Ben for advice. And he's also an addict, and he was going back and forth. And he had finally gotten clean, finally got his own place. He was getting the room ready for Madison to come over this summer, and he had this like really weird roommate, and Ben was like, look, we're cool with Madison going over. You got to get rid of this roommate, man. I don't want some random dude around my daughter. Right. Nick was like, that's totally fine. I'll do that. So he did that. He got the roommate out. Dude came back and they had a knife fight, and Nick got murdered.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So then Ben feels all this guilt over it. I've known, this is my firstborn's father, who I've known since I was 12, so I'm just like, what do? You go relapse. So that's what we did.
Right. Your coping mechanism. That's all you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, I was the last person to talk to Nick, and I'm the one that told him to kick that roommate out. And so I did carry a tremendous amount of guilt.
Right. It's understandable, but still.
He got off the phone with me. He said, hey, I got somebody at the door. Let me grab this. And that was it. The guy that was at the door stabbed him to death. And so
holy shit.
I didn't want to look Jess in the eye. I sure as shit didn't want to look Madison in the eye. And that was one of those times I ended up going missing. I don't remember anything that transpired over the next week, but I guess it was exactly a week after that day. I woke up in an empty lot in South Memphis, covered in blood. Had to this day, I don't know whose blood. I mean, I didn't have a cut on me. Had no idea how I'd gotten there. Couldn't remember shit. Just blackout drunk, and I called my dad, and he's like, "Dude, just come home. Just fucking come home." Which is a weird thing to say, because I've lived in 14 states. I mean, where is home? But in that moment,
your home was with your father.
Exactly. And
I'm going to interrupt because Dan makes a good question. Says, ever thought you guys were trauma buddies in the beginning?
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
We're absolutely trauma bonded. And
Yeah.
I don't know that you can make a blanket statement about trauma bonding being good or bad. In our case, it certainly worked out good. We made it through some hell together, man. We've seen a lot of death and a lot of suffering. And if you look at our life today, I mean, we're still seeing a lot of it. And I don't know that your average couple, even with our background, could make it through doing all the
No.
fucked up stuff that we do if we didn't have that foundation. So yeah, Dan, great question. We were trauma buddies in the beginning, and we went ahead and just added a shitload more trauma than we had to that. So to wrap up the story about May 2019, I called my dad. He's like, come home. He sent me money for a Greyhound ticket. I immediately.
And where does your dad live?
Here in Georgia. We're in Georgia.
Okay.
They're 20 minutes from us.
Cool.
So I moved home, and a week later, Jess, we'd been talking every day, but I was prepared to leave because I couldn't live that way anymore. And she asked me to come back to Memphis and get her and James, and we would just start over in Georgia. So
and this is how messed up everything was. So I had the truck, like we had the $700 truck that we had been living in. He had the fucking keys in Georgia.
I got on the Greyhound bus with the truck's locked in Memphis. I had to get back on the Greyhound bus back to Memphis, get her, pray to God the $700 shit box makes it back to Georgia with stolen plates. Like, let's hope we don't get pulled over. We made it. And I lived on.
God was on your side.
Yeah, absolutely. I lived on a couch. Jess and James had twin beds upstairs. Madison had her own room like my parents. I mean, they were nearing retirement at the time. Let us move in with them. And I mean, it was a ticking clock. It wasn't a forever thing. But we got enough sobriety under our belt. Here's the big difference. Christy, you asked why we kept going back to the same thing. It's two things. The environment was one. The other thing is we hadn't suffered enough to make changes. We'd suffered enough to want to stop, but we weren't willing to put in any work to stop, like going to fucking AA. I mean, that's a great thing to do. We knew where NA was, CA, any of the A's, we weren't willing to do it.
Yeah.
We moved to Georgia, and here's why Jess's clean date's actually, she's been clean longer than me, even though in the beginning I've been clean longer than her. Right. I got a job in Georgia. We weren't doing AA. We got out of the environment. We were able to stay clean for the most part. And then I start drinking at work with my coworkers on Fridays.
Oh, shit.
I was like, this is heading in a bad direction fast. And so we started going to AA here in Georgia. And so that's when the switch really flipped for us. Was like 12-step recovery works. Who'd have thought,
So I've had some experience, not, per se me, but I've been to NA, I've been to AA with somebody and understanding the whole concept. And this is my personal thoughts that, and nothing against anybody who's been in AA, it seems that it becomes another addiction of showing up to those meetings. And it's like, you can't, and again, this is just my how I view it. And then it's hard to be able to stand on your own without. And as I said, I haven't been there. I've been to meetings with somebody and seen it and seen the people. And that's also a little bit of my own judgment, which I shouldn't make a judgment because I haven't been it. But
yeah, I was going to say, and I think it probably depends on the individual, because I know
it very much does. Chris, you hit the nail on the head, and I mean, I'm probably going to get some flack for saying this, but 12-step recovery does become a crutch for some people.
Yeah, definitely.
But here's the thing: like, if that's your crutch and you're staying sober and you're working a program and you're being of service, is that really bad?
Right.
And that's not bad at all. But for us, it's 12-step recovery is going to be a part of our lives.
Of course.
The day we die.
Yeah.
As long as I stay clean. Now, if I stop taking part in 12-step recovery, who knows what's going to happen next, right?
Yeah. Can we, after you guys, did get clean, if we can start maybe about how all of these other things, turning your pain into purpose or passion, however you want to look at that, your campaign for Buy Back the Block, or what even led up to that, because being now, you're engulfed in the environment that took you down, but man, you're making an incredible difference. Like, I cried watching some of the things, and y'all, you're just doing such amazing things. So if we could kind of pivot there, because I want to spend as much time talking about these incredible organizations.
So we went back
Oh, and we'll have them back on, so don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, we'll
Maybe
come
it'll be done in an hour.
I was going to say, it took us a year to get them on. They're now stuck with us.
Hey,
I've got
we'll come
I've got
back.
his phone number.
We'll do this soon again. Like I mentioned, we got a book coming out. We definitely want to come on.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, come
Absolutely.
on for the book launch.
So we're hoping to have the rough draft end of February. If any of you guys have read Operation Pineapple Express by my sponsor, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann, the guy that helped him write that book, is helping us. He also edited Jeff Teague's book, Where Have All the Heroes Gone? He's done a lot of cool shit. So he's a
I
great guy.
sent him a message to get him. He's ignored me. But just
Yeah.
I will ping Teague's.
and I'm also plugging in. You need to be on Chris Hennessy's.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I connected you guys on Facebook. That's why he's not on
Sent us a
Facebook.
message right after we saw the announcement.
He wouldn't be on Facebook, and I'm like, dude, I know people. Get on.
I'll make that happen.
And
You
he
have
was like, WTF, how did you get Ben and Jess? And I was like, you asked?
So anyway, let's go into did you? Okay, so
Right
you're
back to the
working, you're broke, but how do you go from where you're at to
Where you are. Because that's a short period of time.
I'm going to do the quick
fit.
version of how all
Perfect.
that played out.
Okay.
So I mentioned we were like probably the number 2 distributor of slide fire stocks. That product, for the most part, is only used on AR-15s. We were doing a tremendous volume of them, and I maintained all of my records. So probably should have phrased that differently, because some conspiracy nut's going to think something weird.
Right.
It's a business tool.
Right.
Okay. So basically, I had a consumer database of
I was going to say, it was your CRM people.
a large swath of people that own AR-15s, which is in very high demand. And that job I mentioned that I took here in Georgia, I met this guy named Robert Coleman, who's a Marine Corps OCS graduate and way smarter than I'll ever be. And he basically came up with a way to overlay our consumer data on big data across the entirety of the web. So what we're able to do is use AI and machine learning to essentially predict if a device is being used by a person who most likely is into guns or a specific gun product or something like that. So it took a lot of time, but we were able to build that into a viable business, and it's now very successful, and we're making a ton of money for our customers, which allows us to throw a bunch of money back at this nonprofit effort. Robert also had always had this idea about starting a nonprofit T-shirt company that would help homeless vets. Well, Jess and I were running apparel brands in tandem to Black Rifle for years, so that piqued my interest. We'd also settled on the name Flanders Fields for our veterans nonprofit that was going to help veterans battling opiate addiction, because that was my lived experience, and to my knowledge, there wasn't something like that existed. So I skipped a ton. There's a ton in there that we could unpack, but we don't have time, I don't think.
I had no plans.
Yeah, we've got time.
So one of the businesses that I had an addiction through serendipity, we were handed back in 2021. We were able to build that business back up. We sold TV parts, so for flat screen TVs to the repair industry. We were able to build that business back up, and it provided a stable base of income for us to build Black Rifle back up. And so that's exactly what we did. So we had 2 businesses, then we started our apparel brand back up. So basically, we took all the things we had lost in addiction, and if you're familiar with 12-step recovery, these are the promises that they talk about in the big book. You start getting shit back. It works like that. And so we found that to be very, very true in our experience. Fast forward to, March of 2021, an old buddy of mine who lost his leg in Iraq, who I had previously gotten through treatment, given a job, and gotten off the streets back in 2011, hits me up. He is now in the exact same spot that I was in 2019 and 2014. He's facing gun charges. He's got dope charges. He's hopelessly addicted, and he's a vet. And he's an amputee. I mean, this isn't somebody that should be having to deal with that and have to call a friend to help him. There should be somebody out there seeking guys like him out. And so I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm making money now. I'm paying for his plane ticket. We're just going to get him to detox and treatment. Told Robert what I was about to do. Robert's like, bro, you really need to just go ahead and start Flanders Fields. And so we did. We filed. I went ahead and took care of my buddy. We filed for the Flanders Fields 501c3 in March. And back at this point in time, they were taking forever to approve these things. But we had this grand idea that we were going to, find guys like that sergeant, and we were going to save them, so they didn't end up as bad as Jess and I ended up. July of 21 rolls around, and the stuff I mentioned we're able to do with AI and ML and data and breach data in particular, has a broad appeal. And I got hit up by a USMC, a Marine Corps intelligence officer, asking if we could do our data in Afghanistan to maybe vet potential Afghan allies or maybe Taliban? And the answer is no, we couldn't. But we found a way to do it. And so in July, we get pulled into the impending collapse of Afghanistan on the Black Rifle side. And it's purely philanthropic. We're just helping out. August rolls around and the evac starts. Oh. And we're using breach data sets, which coincidentally, we use the same breach data sets in human trafficking now. They work amazingly well. We're able to vet and locate American family members, like getting people inside the gates at the airports, because we're able to exploit devices or social media accounts, find phone numbers, make contact, build instant trust because we know a lot about them already. I'm glossing over the top of all this. So we get fully immersed in the evac out of Afghanistan. Now, keep in mind,
did you have to deal with the government or anything like that for approval and crap? Yeah.
Don't get me started, dude.
Okay. I can't even imagine.
I've got a story about the State Department when I tried to go to Tajikistan in September of 2021 that would blow your mind, but we don't have time for that one.
I'm going to bring you back on. You guys have some great stories.
Oh, yeah. I'm happy. Look, for a guy that never deployed in the Army, I've done some incredibly cool shit as a civilian.
Yes, you have.
The last few years, wild. So in the middle of all this evac shit, I'd been up for days running, trying to get people inside the airport, hadn't slept, and we get a piece of mail and it's Flanders Fields has been approved. I'm looking at the charter and nowhere does it say the vets have to be addicted or that they have to be American. So I put in the back of my head, I now have a nonprofit that is chartered to house homeless vets. Okay, if we ever need that. Well, we're still thinking the evac out of Afghanistan is going to wrap up and we're going to get all the allies out by August 31st, right?
Sure.
That didn't fucking happen. We're still dealing with that.
Yep.
So we brought Flanders Fields resources to bear in Afghanistan. I think by the end of it, Jess was running 68 safe houses in Afghanistan. So think about that. We were homeless in 2019. 2 years later, we're figuring out how to sign leases in fucking Dari. Like, what is that? How does that even make sense?
It doesn't.
We safe housed one of America's first interpreters for a while. They left him. He's still not here. How fucked up is that? Yeah. So my faith in the
you don't even want me to start on that end.
My faith in the institution of American government hit an all-time low in 2021.
And they're still there.
But I'm going to read a comment that Brian Walker says. He goes, I'm glad that there are people that are focused on helping our veterans, but isn't it shameful that our very government now that sends them to war does very little to support them when the war is over? We need to demand better.
I agree with everything Brian Walker said, but I'm gonna kick this back. Have we ever seen a government solution to a human problem that did not create more problems than it solved? No. And that's kind of why Flanders exists where it does. We like to be nimble and to be able to get shit done at the grassroots level. That's probably why we're always broke. It's probably why we don't have a corporate sponsor. It's probably why we don't get any grant money, because we don't take any pay for doing it. And they look at it like, this isn't sustainable. You're just out there grassroots meeting needs. Well, sometimes somebody has to do that.
Right.
And, I don't think a bureaucracy is going to be I agree fully with what you're saying, Brian. You're absolutely right about that. I just don't know that there's any way the government can actually be a solution rather than a bigger problem.
Right.
We see this in any calamity we touch, whether it's disaster response, the war on drugs, homeless vets, grassroots solutions are always going to be better. Look at the evac out of Afghanistan. It's great that question came up while we're talking about this. Who got most of the groundwork done there? It was civilians that just showed up.
Exactly.
Yes.
Without having to go through a bureaucracy to do it.
Yes.
Of course, we were always afraid the entire time that we're going to get charged with human trafficking or war crime or who knows what. Right. But we got shit done. We got people out, and we were able through that effort to build up a badass network of other people who have this "here am I, send to me" mentality. And they just show up to get shit done and to meet needs wherever it's done. And we've used that same network throughout the efforts of Flanders Fields. We have one of our guys in Ukraine demining right now. He's training territorial defense forces on EOD techniques. We've outfitted teams of Ukrainians with demining gear. We responded to the fires in Lahaina. We did the Wynn, Arkansas tornadoes. We responded to the Uvalde mass shooting, the Q Club shooting. And every time we're bringing in these absolute badasses, who most of them are vets, special operations vets. There seems to be a mentality that runs in that crowd that, we're going to show up and get things done. What are you doing?
I gotta pee.
She can go pee. So my question is why she goes pees, because we all have to do it once in a while. Do you feel, and I'm going to throw God out because you know how I am, and it's not about religion, but do you feel that everything you guys have gone through, and I ask this about everybody, and I look at my own life, that you had to go through the depths of fucking hell to turn around and say, God's saying, okay, I was always with you. You just didn't know. Sort of like Jonah, and I said that on Facebook last night. That story always comes up in my head. That it's like God tells you to do this, and you're like, fuck no, I'm not doing that. And look what happened to Jonah. Do you feel that that's where you're going? Because for somebody who's broke, homeless, and then all of a sudden you're
international
doing this and this and this, and you're paying it forward and saying, no, we're going to do this. No, we're going to do this. And I mean, going to We Fight Monsters. I mean, how perfect is that title? Because that's what you're doing. There's so many fucking monsters out there, and some that we don't even understand, so do you feel that could be it? I mean, do you ever question like, how the hell did we get here, and why are we doing this?
No, this is all God. And every time I get, especially when I leave the country and my mom's weirded out about what I'm going to do, I don't go anywhere God doesn't tell me to go. And because of that, I know I'm going to be safe as long as I show up and do what he tells me to do. It doesn't matter if I'm walking into a Haitian migrant camp or an active dope house. I know I'm good if I only go where God tells me to go. We had God with us out there on the dope track. And I know that sounds crazy, but we knew we did. Yeah. Our faith was strong even back then. We just weren't doing what he wanted us to do, which is why he allowed us to fall flat on our asses. I may have a potty mouth and I may be covered in tattoos, but I'm an incredibly strong Christian.
You're incredible.
And my God tells me to love my neighbor, and everything you see me doing is how God has told me to love our neighbor. And we even got asked by Afghans many, many times, why are you doing this? You don't even know us. Why? So my God told me to. Mm-hmm. We actually ended up we're not a religious organization. I'm not called to evangelism. I'm not called to do any of that. I'm called to meet needs and love my neighbor. That's it. But we actually did see some of our Afghans convert to Christianity just because of the love of Jesus they saw expressed through our actions. We've got videos of Afghans who might be watching right now that were baptized in safe houses in Pakistan. Cool. It's crazy. It's crazy the things that happen.
But that's your testimonials showing.
Yeah, 100%.
And this is what's needed in our world.
Amen.
Absolutely. And whether we call it Christianity or not, to me, doesn't matter as much. It's as long as we're out there loving our neighbor,
amen,
getting the right thing done.
Right. Amen. So how did you end up coming into We Fight Monsters and going into build the houses?
Buy back the block.
Yeah.
The We Fight Monsters was born out of necessity. We started Flanders Fields. We decided it's time to wrap up Afghanistan. We didn't decide. God told me it's time to wrap up your effort in Afghanistan, because on our worst days out there and some of our good days, we used to pray this foxhole prayer: God, if you'll just get us out of here, we'll spend the rest of our lives coming back and saving the people we left behind. And the day, remember I mentioned I went back to Memphis a week after I left to pick her and James up in that truck. We're pulling out of Memphis. I took a picture in the rearview mirror and thought I was going to be all, deep on Facebook and post, I'm leaving this place in the review for good. And I did it. And I told Jess like 20 minutes later, I was like, God wants me to go back. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. My work.
I was like, please don't fucking go back.
Sometimes when God talks to me, and that's how Kelly and I actually really got to know each other, because I did an event for Brian Terry from Fast and Furious. And because I had met through Jay and Pete, I was just sort of like, what the fuck do you want? Why? Why? And trust me, it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
But when he tells you to do something, you just do it.
That's exactly right. And that's kind of how it started. He told us we needed to go back and make good on that promise to get people out of the dope track. I'm like, okay, well, we've got Flanders Fields, and it's here to help vets battling addiction. let me go back to Memphis.
And it did take us years.
2 years.
It did take us years
to go back the first time.
Yeah.
We went back to find Smokey, the 1-9 Marine who was addicted to crack, who drove me to detox because he was the only vet. Well, actually, there was another one. I'm not going to say her name because she might be watching, but she was a Army drill sergeant in Germany back in the 90s. She was raped, ended up dishonorably discharged, but I lived with her in 2014. So went back to find her and Smokey and get them off the dope track and couldn't find either one of them. But we started running into all of the prostitutes that used to make sure our 2-year-old had food. Oh. And I can't step over your dead body just because you never wore a uniform. That's fucked up. Yeah. Not in a million years would anybody suggest we should do that, but I can't spend Flanders money on those people. So we started doing it out of pocket. And very quickly we realized, 95% of people that are out there ready for help aren't vets. And that's 95% of the population is not. So we stood up, we fight monsters to help those who never served. And you can't battle addiction in the Mid-South without battling sex trafficking. The two go hand in hand very much. So, it was weird the way doors kept opening. We finally did find Smokey. We did get Smokey into detox and treatment. Over Christmas, that woman I just talked about, we flew her back to Memphis to see her sister and me for the first time in a decade. She's clean now too.
I remember that post. Yeah. I remember that post.
Okay. And so the very first house we got was the house that I almost died in with her and Smokey. Yeah. And we went and identified the house. They were still boosting cars, or we identified the owner of the house. They were still boosting cars and running a chop shop behind it. It was an active trap. Mm-hmm. One of my employees he was actually my second employee ever. I hired this kid the day after his 16th birthday in 2011. Turned out he was a real estate agent now, and he's kind of stayed in contact with me through all of my ups and downs. And he's like, I'm going to find out who owns that house. And he did. Him and Jen Bocook, actually. Jen used to be with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project, but they kind of worked together to find the owner of this house and told her what we're doing. And she's like, well, fuck it. I'm a little white girl. I can't fix this house out there in the super hood anyway. You guys want it? And I was like, yeah, we want it. What do you want for it? She's like, I'm going to donate it to you.
Oh, God.
So the trap house where I lived through some of the worst days of my life was given to us. And Jess had been in this house too. I mean, this street was hell. That is the house that has the door to hell. If you've ever seen me post that picture, yeah. That's it. And so.
How was that walking in there?
Tough.
It was hard.
I think it was more dramatic for him because he had actually
she smoked some crack in that house. I smoked some
crack in there a few times. So I was like, I used to smoke crack there. And I used to smoke crack there, but he actually saw some real shit there. So it was very dramatic.
Yeah, a lot of violence and it was tough, dude. But the house doesn't look anything like that anymore.
Neither does the block.
No, neither does the block. So that was the first one, and then we decided we were going to go close the trap house where me and Jess were almost murdered. And we started.
Okay, well that's okay. Stop. How were you almost murdered?
I think there's multiple.
We might be going over, and we do tend to go over once in a while because,
there were a few times we were almost killed in that house.
So this was the house that we actually moved into when we got evicted from the big house that y'all see in the pictures. So it was these big, huge guys. They're like, get the fuck out of the house. You're not paying anymore. We're throwing your shit out. So, and we were both smoking crack at this. I think I'd been up for 3 days at this point when they kicked us out. So we were like, well, what do? We go to the trap house so we can just smoke crack and smoke our cares away. Right. And so we just stayed in this house and we kind of lived there for a while. So we were always in this house, and there is a certain drug dealer there that was,
evil personified.
He was just Satan in human form. He still is. And I can't remember what it was. He was just a horrible person altogether, but he, had us at gunpoint.
And this is a guy who he shot one of my friends 6 times. The date. So these weren't idle threats. When I say we were almost murdered, we were
right.
He doesn't just threaten you. He
doesn't make threats. In fact, well, I'm not even going to get into that. There's so many stories we could tell about this place, but his partner that helped run the house was a little more open to reason. And I kind of worked that side of it, and we were able to buy the house out from under them, essentially with the blessing of the dope boys.
Yeah.
Now, see, their mentality is that we'll just move the trap up the street and keep doing what we do.
Right.
Well, and they did, but guess what? I got every
buying the houses.
I got every other motherfucker that was buying dope out of that house into detox and treatment.
Good for you.
Of course you did.
And the ones I couldn't get in, we just sat back and waited. Some of them, well, the day we bought the house, one of them got shot 5 times by that same guy. And he lived. He's clean now.
Good.
A couple more of them got arrested. OCU raided the house.
About 5 of them died.
Yeah, a lot of them have died. But look, if you remove the client base that's buying dope, the dope boys, for the most part, they're just trying to get by. They're not bad people. I know we just talked about one who's Satan personified. He really is truly an evil human being. Most of them are not. If you remove the profitability from running a trap house, they tend to move on to other things. It'll surprise no one that drug dealers in general make pretty damn good entrepreneurs. And so something we've started doing.
As long as they don't start using their stuff.
Well, those aren't good drug dealers. Right?
Right.
Those are addicts. And so when I said some of them got arrested, we're housing 2 of them that got arrested out of that house right now, and they're rock stars. They're helping us.
That's awesome.
Usually when you see somebody get arrested for selling drugs, they're almost never the actual dealer.
Right.
The guys trafficking dope have another addict who they pay in dope to take all the risk for them. So
I'm gonna show a naive whatever.
I-
Why do you call it trap house where over a crack house? What's the difference, or is there a difference?
There is not a difference. It's the exact same thing. It's just in street culture, they call it a trap. And the reasons why are varied, but essentially a trap is something that's designed to keep you from escaping it. And that's basically what they are.
Okay.
And I just want to, I just want to add a little fact for everyone to understand this. The Buy Back the Block project or campaign that y'all did within, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on the timelines, but I think it was like within 6 months. Now, this was a block that was one of the most dangerous in Memphis.
Yeah.
And within 6 months, there was no crime, no anything.
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, so that is the metric I gave. You're absolutely correct on that, Kelly. I'm impressed.
She's a nerd. I told you.
It's actually more impressive.
A nerd in me.
It's more impressive than that. The day we moved on to Melrose Street, 0 crime from that day forward. To my knowledge, there's not been a single crime reported on that street. Now, Woodward, as I mentioned, the day I bought the house, after I closed on it, a guy was shot 5 times coming out of that house. So there, it wasn't instant on that street. They did move the trap, and there is still some crime, but there's not been any violent crime since that one. And we're coming up on a year now. And so but here's the thing. If you just go in and you try to do gentrification or you're just trying to flip houses, you're not going to see that same effect. The reason it's working is because we're a constant presence out there. And it's not just us. Like, we're taking guys that we've gotten out of jail or through drug court or off the dope track, and they're the ones doing the work on these houses. They're the ones that are out there 24/7, keeping an extended hand. We did an event in South Memphis over the summer, and a lady just walked up to one of our crew. And this crew member had been out of custody for 3 months, only clean 3 months. She walked up to him and just said, "I'm tired." That day, that woman put down a 60-year crack and alcohol binge.
Oh, God bless.
50-something years.
Yeah.
She's still clean. She's still clean, and we're housing her. We see stuff like this all the time. It's crazy, but it all requires that presence. It requires trust, and it requires human connection. You can't just go into a place and do this without the human component.
And showing that you believe in them, because they don't believe in themselves, and that's where you end up going and down to that hole. So my other question is, when you clean up this house, do you take a sage and sage all the bad demons out of it?
We've had people ask that and want to do it. And look, if someone wants to come do that, that's fine. I don't believe in that shit. I just to me, it's just a damn house. And
strip it down to the bare bones to begin with. So
we strip it down to bare bones, and there's been a lot of death in well, I guess all those houses actually, but a couple of them in particular. God told me to go work on his houses. And so, you know, I'm
And he
good.
stages it.
That's right.
Right.
Like, we're good.
That's the best thing.
Built with love, and that will always
Exactly. Exactly. So tell us about your new website.
Yeah. So onceamerican.com. I bought the domain a long time ago, thinking I was going to do something to sell like patriotic right-wing apparel or something. And then it dawned on me one day, like, we're broke. I'm tired of asking people for money. Let me just make some apparel and see if we could sell it on this Once American website and fund the mission. Lo and behold, people love the apparel. You know, Jess is wearing some right now. I'm wearing the 9-line version.
I've got my baseball hat being delivered today.
It's great stuff, and it works. And so my goal long term with Once American is, like, I want to have our own warehouse. Right now, a lot of it's print on demand, drop ship fulfillment, but we're letting, like, our trafficking survivors have input on the design. Jess has done a lot of the design too.
Yes, Jess's new ones are rad. Love them.
So badass, so badass. So, like, it's a real low lift on the skill and talent side, because you can get on Fiverr and find somebody to help with this stuff pretty easily. I want to have like a whole warehouse where we can put some of our harder to employ people to work. You know, something that is like super duper flex time for our folks who are on disability or have a lot of court requirements to keep up with and regular jobs not for them. We've also got a couple trafficking survivors who are on the sex offender registry, not because they did anything
Right.
to a child, but because they took a charge. And we're actually going to drop a documentary about one of them here soon. It's really fucked up the way they did her.
So I'm gonna switch gears.
Yeah.
Well, I have two things. First of all, great Christmas present that you gave to Jess.
Thank you.
These two people, I gotta tell you, they play chess. She reads books that's on Latin. It's just
That's incredible.
going to the trafficking, and we're gonna have one of your close friends in next month, I think, or March. How do you, because we fight monsters, a lot of these prostitutions are out there not by their choice.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are from, you know, middle class to even higher class backgrounds. You know, people always think that, you know, these prostitutes are, you know, runaways, or, you know, they're not smart and this is what they have to do. That's not true. And it's, you know, we had Craig on. We love Craig. Sorry. But to understand that it's $1 billion business, and to have you all, we fight monsters, to see these prostitutes, and they're not prostitutes. They're young men and women that are just like, they're trying to just survive their addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, or being kidnapped, and now they're, you know, locked up and being fueled at an addiction. How do you all, and, you know, we're going to have the story with Kristen, but how do you all work that? And do you house them in the homes, or how do you ungroom them? Because I know somebody who had a daughter, and I'm from Texas. So Houston's a shit show with trafficking. I know somebody whose daughter, I want to say she was like in her early teens, was getting groomed on the internet. And then luckily she saw the signs and was able to get her ungroomed. But how do you all work with We Fight Monsters with the trafficking in, you know, the Memphis area, because that's where your main focus is right now, which I think is like the bedrock of the beginning of something bigger.
I agree completely. It is the bedrock of something bigger. You know, our frame of reference, everything always starts around dope.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a few examples. Like, we've never seen somebody get kidnapped and sold into the sex trade. I'm sure it happens in America, but it's a super duper tiny percentage. Especially for parents watching that are afraid of this. Or that are afraid their kids might fall into it. The biggest things you can do, and this is important. I know this isn't what you asked, but I do want to touch on it. You know, you need to be aware of what your kids are doing online. I know it's so convenient for us to let these things babysit our kids, and that's not a knock on parents. Look, I've got 8 kids. Tablets are lifesavers sometimes. Just be aware of what apps they've got that have chat features. If you start going through your kids' chat on Minecraft or Roblox, you're going to see some weird shit. There are creepy people out there.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing. Be aware of who your kids are talking to. And the biggest thing you can do to prevent that kind of crap happening. And 𝑗𝒐𝒎𝒆𝒏𝒆𝒚 said this the other day, and it hit me right between the eyes. Have family dinner. Make it mandatory. No devices. You don't even have to talk. You just sit and you have that face-to-face time every fucking day with your family. We need to do that anyway, right? I mean, that's not like rocket science, but he says that is the number one thing we can do to prevent your kids getting trafficked. And I fully believe that. So let's go back to our frame of reference in Memphis. You know, we've got one woman whose mom was her first trafficker, sold her to the dope man to settle the debt when she was 12. And that's how she entered a life of prostitution. She went on to have several kids by different fathers, lost all of them to the state. You don't know her. This is a friend of Phila's. Today, we're not housing her. We had nothing to do with her journey. I'm just familiar with it. Right. Today, she's clean. She's got all of her kids back, you know, and she made it back on her own. That's an exceptional story. We've got another woman who holds, don't say her name, 12, 13.
You know, I love how he can say something and she knows exactly what he's about to say.
You know, this is one of the ones Jess has just made it her mission in life to save a few times over. Her first trafficker was her mom when she was 12. Her mom let the dope boy have his way with her to get a fix. And this woman subsequently became addicted to crack herself. And her frame of reference was you give up your body to get dope. And here we are 41 years later, and she's still out there doing it. And we've tried so hard to get her out of it. She just isn't ready. And that's the really shitty part of addiction. Until somebody's ready to put it down, they're not going to. You heard my story. I mean, that was so it's different for all of us. Like plenty of people can get arrested and that's it. They're never touching it again. They're going to, you know, go to meetings, do what they got to do. It's not like that for all of us. And I'll give you another example. There were two 14, 15-year-old girls being advertised on one of those dark web pages for sex in Memphis. Both of them obviously underage. And they were addicted to fentanyl. When the door got kicked and they got saved, they were pissed. They were pissed because they wanted to keep getting high, and they knew that rescue meant dope sick. Yep. So somebody being held against their will and sold for sex doesn't always look like a cage and handcuffs. That's movement, if you're asking me. I've never encountered that once. What I have encountered is somebody leveraging an addiction to keep a woman prisoner. You might remember at the beginning of this podcast, I talked about how miserable being dope sick is. I cannot put into words for any American who has never been dope sick to understand what it is like. But pure abject horror, terror, you don't understand the anxiety that comes leading up to that. It is absolutely enough to keep somebody in bondage if you're able to hold that over them.
It is. It's almost like if you take the worst flu you've ever had, mixed with COVID, mixed with the stomach virus, and the worst despair you have ever felt.
The hopelessness is the biggest part.
All together at once. That is what it feels.
And you know, there's one thing that will fix it literally instantly. Only one. And that's you know, heroin, or in today's world, it's fentanyl. Yeah. And so we see in every instance where we see an addiction being used as a tool of coercion to get a girl or woman to sell her body, fentanyl's involved 100% of the time. Crack, 90%. But that's more of a geographical thing with Memphis. Crack is huge there. But when it comes to the sex trafficking of minors, you know, fentanyl's probably one of the most common. Providing runaway shelter, something as simple as shelter, is a means of trafficking them. So, you know, don't think you have to see a girl that's been chloroformed in the dressing room at Banana Republic.
I think that's been, you know, part of the whole process of learning more about it.
Yeah. It's ugly. The reality is ugly. It's not this glamorous, you know, kids getting kidnapped by a ring like with Liam Neeson saying I have a particular set of skills. It's ugly. And the victims, I think a lot of people have a hard time looking at them as victims. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you've been out there on the streets, they're worth saving. They're worth saving, every single one of them. I don't care if they've been out there doing this 50 years. You don't know what led them out there. Exactly. At the core, whether it's a 40-year-old prostitute or a 15-year-old, every one of their stories started roughly the same. Yeah. And it's tragic. And, you know, we as a society have to do better. Removing the stigma around addiction, I think, is going to do monumental amounts to help trafficking. And that's one of the reasons I'm so vocal. People look at me and they don't think I look like a heroin addicted crackhead, but guess what? I am, and I'm a drunk too. We do bounce back. And
in other words, you don't judge the cover of the book because you don't know everybody's story.
Amen to that.
I mean, nobody, I dance with my skeletons, but there's a few skeletons. Not a lot. Some people I haven't vomited out yet.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so, we see in that population we work with, whether it's guys like me or women like Jess or women that have been sex trafficked.
Yeah.
We find diamonds in the rough all the time. And I hate to even use that expression, but it would blow your mind what some of these people are capable of from the outside looking in, from your perspective looking at them. Now, from ours, it's not surprising at all. You have no idea the level of hustle it takes to maintain an addiction as expensive as the ones we have.
I can imagine.
The average woman out there that is addicted to crack and she is selling herself to feed that addiction, they have a $200 to $300 habit a day. That's what, 70, 75 grand, 73 grand minimum a year that they're having to hustle up. Like it takes a significant level of hustle. So if you can remove that addiction that's being used to coerce them into using their body as currency, they're capable of doing some amazing things. And we see turnarounds happen all the damn time that would just absolutely blow your mind.
Well, it goes back to believing in themselves and then showing that you believe them and you trust, to trust them. So how does, with We Fight Monsters, you're working with the fentanyl, you're working with the trafficking, you're working with, just everything that's just evil out there.
Yeah.
How do you, it sort of all comes together, one and done type of thing, but how do you start your day? I mean, how do you say, hey, I've got to do this, I've got to do that?
I think the better question is, when does it end?
It doesn't. And on top of, so for anybody watching that's not aware of this is not how we make our living. Like we don't get paid from We Fight Monsters. It actually costs us money every day, which is fine. That's how we stay sober. So we still have to balance our day job. We also have 8 kids. So 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're going on, I don't even know how many years, but remember, we were out there for years having to support an extremely expensive addiction. So like we're used to this level of hustle. It's all good. Our day starts with 1 million notifications on our phones. We hope there's not been a fire, literally. We hope nobody's dead. We hope another country hasn't been invaded because I keep getting tapped into fucking evac efforts. And we just start hammering it out. I've got to catch up on messages from the crew. So we run crews that generally come through our program. They're graduates of our halfway houses. And they're the ones that kind of take point on the block when I'm not in Memphis. I'm in Memphis about 80% of the time. We're trying to flip that so that I'm home 80% of the time. And Jess's day starts at 6:20. She's got to get the kids up for school. She takes James and drops him off, and then she takes Ava and drops her off. The rest of the kids drive, or the rest of the kids that live with us drive. And then, she starts doing intake calls for the halfway houses. We work with a myriad of treatment providers. Detox and rehab is just step one, dude. That's just the beginning. We work with a number of IOPs, which is intensive outpatient programs, and they do things like MRT, motor recognition therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, just various, because you have to have a whole repertoire of therapy options, because not one thing is going to work for everybody. And so you got to be able to offer all that stuff, whatever it's going to take. Job training, we spend a lot of time trying to find folks jobs. Not everybody that we house stays a good fit for our houses either. Some of them, it's very individualized. We'll have somebody that is doing great. They're staying sober, but we see a lot of potential in them that they may not see. And by us providing them a free roof over their heads, sometimes that's hindering their progress as an adult.
Right.
The whole point of this is to help them grow and to find that real potential. Jess has to spend a lot of time with the women in particular discussing things like what to expect out of a man, what type of behavior is acceptable and what's not. Yep. Things like basic financial skills, basic financial literacy, actual literacy in some cases. You'd be stunned how many adults out there actually can't read.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot. Every day is different. There are very few things that are the same from day to day. At least on my end. I think on her side, she does have some consistent things like the intake calls and assessments.
Mhm.
She works. Do you have anything you want to add? I feel like I've dominated this entire conversation.
You usually do, but that's
Sorry.
okay. He's way better at speaking. I can't make words sometimes, so
That's true.
he's way better at speaking. But
You know, Jess, I have my own language. When I met my husband, he speaks like, I don't know, 6 weird languages. And when we first met, he's like, you have your own language. It's called Christianese. I get what you, and Kelly knows it. I get what you're trying to say, but it's not really English.
Those are English words, and you made a thought, but they didn't work together.
Well,
That's
yeah,
right.
but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So it's Christianese. So I get it. I get it.
And I think because, I mean, seriously, could 100% talk to you for days because there's so many other things that I want to explore. But I do want to know for all of our listeners, how can people help you?
Well, actually, I'm going to plug that in. I have a public page on Facebook. My birthday's on Thursday, 62.
Yes,
I'm asking for donations. You know how Facebook asks donations a few years ago? I did, for Craig's. I've done it for Sean's. I am asking $1 adds up to $1.
Yes.
I know our economy fucking sucks, but these
every dollar matters.
I think we connected a few years ago on Facebook. So you can donate on my page and then just connect with me because I have an open page and you never know who I know that needs to know you.
Amen.
Or go to their website. But they don't make any money here.
Yeah.
They are taking this out of their pocket and they're doing something fucking good for our country and for the people that nobody gives a shit about.
Beyond
and
her.
You could be one of those people.
Just humans.
Off my stand right there. So there you go.
But I mean, and I just want everyone to think for a moment. What year did y'all get sober?
2019.
2019.
And I just asked him to say that again. Let that sink in for a moment. We just turned into 2024. And from 2019 to now, what they have done is, honest to God, it is a gift from God. And you two truly are, in my opinion, are proof that angels live among us. Because you're literally saving lives. And to do it in such a short period of time, and why I said at the very beginning, is it should make everyone look in within themselves. Because one couple and the amount that you have changed in this world in such a short period of time is truly astounding. And the way that you care about others with the no judgment. And it should just be a lesson for everyone. And take a look and say, you know what, I can get out and help my community too. You don't need to go to the level that they're doing it. Nobody's saying that, but just doing something. And I know on one of the interviews, of course I think all of them, is I loved that you, and Ben, you said this, and that y'all have said so many things that struck me so deeply. But one of them was that you said, I don't want to be remembered for the man that I am. I want to be remembered for what I did and why. And I'm just like, y'all, let that sink in for a second and take a moment to stop bitching, pissing, and moaning and judging people. Do something. It doesn't have to be this big, but take a look in your own community. Go mentor an at-risk youth. There's so many things. Work at a soup kitchen. Do whatever. But we can all do something. And if you can't and you want to write a check, look them up. They're looking for donations. Sorry, I'm totally the crier. But y'all just, I can't, watching some of the videos, particularly when you let families into their house and the children, it gets me every single time. But their joy and just seeing like, holy shit, you have changed the course of this child's life and gave them hope to a bright future. And there is no price tag you can put on that. So you guys are honest, a gift from God for all of us and an inspiration, because I do hope it motivates everyone just to do a little something extra. And then do go to their websites and donate and buy some of their swag, because their swag is super rad. And we will include every link to everything, and do follow them on social media and share it with your friends, family, and your network, because everyone needs to know about them. Because I honestly believe, like, we fight monsters, And Flanders Field, it should be everywhere. It shouldn't just be local. Like I see this needed in every community across this country. So I'm now off my soapbox.
So what do you two have? Anything else before we log off? And then on the back end, we will be talking.
Yes.
So I got here's my thoughts and summation. I think Kelly just hit the nail on the head. Look, dude, we're not special. We're not celebrities. We're not rich. We're not powerful. I'm barely even a vet. So people watching this like, oh, well, he's a vet. They went and did all this cool. No, man, I've done all this as a civilian and really only since I got sober. Find that thing. Everybody has this. God put it in all of us. Find that thing that breaks your heart. That thing you don't even want to look at. I don't care if it's, puppies on the side of the road, if it's, little kids. For me, it's seeing an addict suffer. I think for Jess, it probably is more about seeing kids suffer. Find that thing that breaks your heart. Move towards it with everything you've got, which runs counter to everything natural to us. It's going to make you uncomfortable as hell. You're not going to want to do it. Move towards it and just find a way today to make a little difference. Do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. What's going to happen over time, you're going to find a lot of other people that are operating in that same space. Your mission is going to take shape and you're going to find allies to fight it with you. And again, it doesn't have to look anything like ours. This can be for literally anything in the world. But I think that God designed us for when we move towards that thing that breaks our heart, that's where we find our purpose here on this earth. Yeah. Life's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be fun. You're not going to get much rest, but damn, you're going to go to bed knowing you did what you were supposed to do that day. And for me, that's better than anything in the world. So that's my rant. Jess, what do you got for closing thoughts?
Well, exactly what Ben just said. But I'm a little bit bitchier on my side.
I like that.
For everything he said is absolutely true. And a lot of people want to do a lot of things, but it takes some give a damn. And you have to suffer and you have to not be comfortable and you have to be okay with not being comfortable. And there's so many people that want to do something that, well, tomorrow, maybe tomorrow tomorrow's never going to fucking come.
Right.
You have to fucking do it today. You have to figure out what you want. You have to, or even if you can't figure it out, at least sit your ass down and pray about it. Think about it. Meditate. Do something. Don't just sit on your ass. Don't watch TV for hours. Go out and do something. Or even if you're just going to the gas station to get some gas, or and you see some drunk guy that's just give him a smile. The smallest thing matters. The smallest thing, even if you don't want to give him money, that's fine. Go sandwich. He might not even want that sandwich. He might be bad because he wanted a fucking beer. But you know what? He sees that someone cared enough to buy him a sandwich. And sometimes that saves a life. So just the smallest things. Do that. Get off your ass. Do something. Make a plan or just pray about it. But be progressive. Be doing something.
Because it could be your life. It could be somebody you know.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's the whole thing. I mean, you never know what other people are going through in their, in the back end. Mm-hmm. Because we all have, the social media, the beautiful life, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Most of those times you have no idea what the struggles are. So if you just, you just go out there and say, how can I help you, with a smile and with your heart? I mean, truly mean it. Don't just, do the, mouthing the words, because we all need to start becoming more human.
We do.
And have connections.
I think the fact that what we're doing, and I hate to use this term, but we're on social media anyway, the fact that so much of what we've done has gone viral highlights something important. We're nowhere near as divided as a nation as the media wants us to think we are.
That's right.
Yeah. We love each other. We're all Americans. I don't give a shit what color you are. I don't care what religion you are, socioeconomic, none of that matters. Right. We're all in this fight together, and this is our country, and those are our streets. We can't sit around and wait on the government to come fix them. No. They're not going to. I mean, but we can rally together as a community, whatever community you're in, and make a difference. I mean, dude, the world will be a better place. And we're living proof of that. That example she just gave about smiling at the drunk dude at the gas station, she was talking about me. I was ready to kill myself towards the end of it. It was right after my second heart attack. I was going to go get dope and I was going to overdose on purpose. And the only reason I didn't was because a stranger smiled at me. She didn't even open her mouth. She just smiled at me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick it out. I'll kill myself tomorrow. And here we are 5 years later. I mean, that was like, you never know the ripple effects. Those little
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many of us that, we all can be an earth angel to somebody else.
That's right.
We also all have broken wings.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's perfect. So for us to sit there and say, well, I can't help somebody because I've got my own issues or whatever, you don't realize you helping them is going to probably help your own issues.
That's the
100%.
The whole doing what we're doing makes us better.
Yeah.
It keeps us sober, sure, but it gives us purpose. It makes me fulfilled. Like I'm actually happy. I'm tired, but I'm happy at the end of the day. And it's because I'm out there doing stuff for other people. So helping others absolutely helps us.
Yeah. You're truly high on life. I mean,
and I think that's innate to all of humanity. We're wired that way. Like we're built to serve each other.
Yeah. Oh, so true. Christy, do you have any final thoughts, my dear?
Donate.
Yes.
Hey, come on, people. You guys know me. It's my birthday. I'm turning 62.
Every
Donate.
dollar matters.
Give me a gift. That's all I ask.
Love it.
Good gifts. This is every show that we've had some great people, but these are two people. And again, nothing to diss anybody else. Because of their story and what they've gone through, and their being so transparent and being so authentic. I mean, talking to them, you can literally see that heart. I mean, the heart is on their sleeve, and there's nothing that we all need to wear our hearts on our sleeves. I practice that because I didn't, we have to you're never too old to become a better person in this world because this is what we need. So that's all I have to say, but donate my birthday. Come on,
Yes.
It only comes once a year.
Yes. Every dollar matters. So it doesn't matter if it's a small donation. Every dollar matters. And that all being said, y'all just go out and smile at someone. And I say that all the time because I am that person that goes and smiles at, and I look for the person that looks the worst because I was that person at one time. And samey, the person that smiled at me helped keep me going. So a great note to end on, and just to say we will absolutely be having them back because there's way more to talk about. You guys, again, are just a gift and a blessing. We're so honored to have you. And this truly was, and like Christy said, we've had some incredible guests, and I love every single one of them and the ones that we have coming up. But you were a serious geek out moment for me that I was super pumped about. And it is because you guys are so real and just sharing it. And that's what the world needs, is just be more like Ben and Jess, and go buy some of their swag.
There's a logo.
There you go. Hashtag be like Ben and Jess.
Yeah.
So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today and for going over with us, because it needed to. And we could continue, I know, for another hour and a half easily. Yes, do connect with them. I will share all the links that we've talked about to everything today, including the documentary that I mentioned earlier on, in the comments as well as in the post promo. And until next week at 1:11 p.m. Eastern time, do remember, and this is such proof, we are all on this journey together, and together we do make it awesome.